Release what drains you. The Stoic path to freedom and inner peace. You wake up tired. Not the kind of tired that sleep fixes. The kind that lives in your chest. The kind that has been there for months, maybe years. The kind that no amount of rest, no vacation, no distraction seems to touch. And if you are honest with yourself, truly honest, you already know why. It is not your job. It is not your schedule. It is not that you are weak or broken or missing something everyone else seems to have. It is what you are carrying. The relationships that take everything and give nothing back. The grudges you have been hauling around like stones in a backpack. The version of yourself you keep performing for other people. The expectations that were never yours to begin with. The worry about things that have not happened and may never happen. The guilt about things that cannot be changed. The constant, grinding need for approval from people who will never fully give it. You are not exhausted by life. You are exhausted by the weight of everything you refuse to put down. The Stoics had a word for this condition. They called it living in chains, not physical chains, but the invisible bonds of attachment, fear, and misplaced desire that keep a person from ever experiencing genuine freedom. And they had a practice for breaking those chains. Today on the Stoic Mindset, we are going to go through every major drain in your life. Emotional, mental, relational, spiritual, and we are going to do the deep work of learning how to release it. Not suppress it, not run from it. Release it, the Stoic way, from the ground up. This is going to take time. Get comfortable. Because what we are talking about today is not a quick fix. It is a complete reorientation of how you relate to everything that is slowly emptying you out. The Stoic understanding of energy. Before we go anywhere, we need to establish the foundation. The Stoics did not talk about energy in the modern wellness sense, but they absolutely understood the concept of what depletes a person versus what restores them. They just used different language. They talked about hegemonikon, the ruling faculty of the mind, the part of you that governs your judgments, your choices, your responses to the world. They said that when this faculty is functioning well, when it is operating from reason and virtue rather than from fear and desire, a person feels what they called eudaimonia, usually translated as happiness, but more accurately understood as flourishing. Aliveness, the sense of being fully, rightly, genuinely yourself. And they said the opposite of this, the state of depletion, exhaustion, inner fragmentation, comes from allowing the ruling faculty to be constantly hijacked by things outside your control, by other people's demands, by emotions that have not been examined, by values that were handed to you rather than chosen. In modern language, you are drained by everything you give your attention and energy to that does not align with who you actually are and what you actually value. That is the whole diagnosis. Everything else today is about the specifics. The first drain, other people's opinions. Let us start with the drain that touches almost everyone and that almost no one fully admits to. You are exhausted by caring what other people think of you. Not a little, enormously, constantly, in ways so habitual you have stopped noticing them. You dress for other people.
You edit your words before speaking to manage how you are perceived. You make career decisions based on what will look impressive. You stay in situations that do not serve you because leaving would require explaining yourself. You perform a version of yourself in public that is curated, managed, carefully controlled, and then you come home and feel hollow because the performance took everything you had. Epictetus was devastating on this point. He said that a person who is controlled by other people's opinions is not free. They are a slave, not to a master, but to a crowd. And the crowd is worse than any master, because at least a master has consistent demands. The crowd is fickle, contradictory, and impossible to fully satisfy. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private journals, remember, that he never intended anyone to read, about the absolute uselessness of seeking fame and approval. He was the most famous and powerful person in the world, and he wrote to himself about how meaningless that fame was, about how quickly even the most celebrated people are forgotten, about how the opinion of someone who does not know your inner life is worth essentially nothing as a guide for how to live. He asked himself, does the approval of others make something right? Does their disapproval make it wrong? And his answer, again and again, was no. The only legitimate judge of your choices is reason and virtue, not the crowd. The practice for releasing this drain is one of the most challenging in all of Stoicism, because it requires you to genuinely reorient your inner compass. Not to perform indifference to opinions, that is just a different kind of performance, but to actually deeply relocate the source of your self-worth from outside yourself to inside yourself. The Stoics called this living according to nature, meaning living in alignment with your actual rational nature as a human being, rather than in alignment with whatever the social environment around you demands. It begins with a single question that you ask yourself whenever you feel the pull of external approval. If no one ever knew I made this choice, would I still make it? If the answer is yes, the choice is yours. If the answer is no, you're living for an audience rather than for yourself. The second drain, things you cannot control. This is the drain that the Stoics spoke about more than almost any other. And it is the one that, once you genuinely understand it and apply it, produces the most immediate and dramatic relief. You are spending an enormous amount of your energy worrying about, resisting, trying to manage, and feeling devastated by things that are completely outside your control. The weather, the economy, other people's behavior, your health circumstances, traffic, what happened in the past, what might happen in the future, whether people like you, whether your plans succeed, whether the world cooperates with what you want from it.
None of these things are within your control. Not ultimately, not completely. And yet the average person spends the majority of their mental and emotional energy entangled with exactly these things. Epictetus called this the fundamental error of human life. He said that all unhappiness comes from confusing what is up to us with what is not up to us. The moment you treat something outside your control as though it were inside your control, you have set yourself up for suffering. Because reality will not bend to your demand, and you will exhaust yourself in the demanding. What is up to you? Your judgments, your intentions, your effort, your response, your character, your values, how you treat people, how you face difficulty, what you give your attention to. Everything else, everything, is what Epictetus called externals. And his teaching was not that externals do not matter at all. It was that they are not the source of your well-being, and therefore should not be the primary object of your effort and anxiety. Think about what this means practically. The next time you are lying awake at 3 a.m. worrying about something, genuinely ask yourself, is this within my control? If yes, make a plan and rest. If no, release it. Not suppress it. Not pretend it does not exist, but genuinely, consciously, deliberately hand it back to the universe and redirect your attention to what you can actually do. Marcus Aurelius practiced this with the discipline of a man who had everything at stake. He was managing an empire that was constantly under threat, dealing with plagues and wars and political betrayals, and his practice was to return every single day to the boundary between what was his to carry and what was not. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That is the release. Not giving up, not passive resignation, active, deliberate surrender of everything outside that boundary, so that all of your energy can pour into the things within it. The third drain, grudges and the past. There is a particular kind of exhaustion that comes from carrying old wounds, old angers, old betrayals, old versions of stories about what someone did to you, what was taken from you, what should have happened differently. Grudges are one of the heaviest things a human being can carry, and the cruelest thing about them is that they drain the person holding them far more than they affect the person they are directed at. Think about someone you resent, someone who wronged you, genuinely wronged you. Now ask yourself honestly, how much of your mental energy does this person occupy? How often do they appear in your thoughts, your conversations, your quiet moments? How much of your present life is being colored by something they did in the past? They may not think about you at all. They may not even remember. And yet here you are, giving them rent-free occupancy in your mind, allowing something they did weeks or years or decades ago to continue costing you peace every single day. The Stoics were clear about this. Not gentle, clear. Marcus Aurelius wrote that when you wake up in the morning and face the difficult people in your life, you should remind yourself that they are acting from their own ignorance, their own pain, their own limited understanding.
That their wrongdoing harms them more than it harms you, because it degrades their character, while yours remains intact as long as you respond with virtue. This is not passive. This is not letting people off the hook. It is a practical, rational recognition that carrying hatred and resentment is a choice you make, and that the person most harmed by that choice is you. The release of a grudge is not the same as approval of what was done. You do not have to decide that what happened was acceptable. You do not have to reconcile. You do not have to pretend it did not hurt. You simply have to decide that you are no longer willing to pay the ongoing cost of holding it. That your peace, your present aliveness, your energy, your capacity to be fully in your own life right now is more valuable than the satisfaction of maintaining the resentment. Seneca wrote that he who cannot forgive breaks the bridge over which he himself must pass. Because every one of us has done things that required forgiveness. Every one of us has been the person who wronged someone. The quality of mercy you extend is, in some way, the quality of grace you create space for in your own life. The practice is this. Identify the one grudge that is costing you the most, the one that comes up most often, the one that tightens your chest when you think about it, and then spend time with the Stoic question, who is being harmed right now by my holding this? And is that person worth it? The fourth drain, relationships that empty you. Not all relationships restore you. Some drain you. This is one of the most difficult truths to sit with because we are taught that loyalty and love require us to give endlessly, to stay regardless of what it costs us, to put the needs of others consistently above our own well-being. The Stoics had a more nuanced view. They absolutely believed in deep, committed relationships. They believed in friendship as one of the highest goods available to human beings. Seneca wrote that a friend is someone with whom you can share every thought as safely as your own mind. That kind of friendship, built on genuine mutual care, honesty, and shared values, the Stoics considered almost sacred. But they also had a very clear eye about what they called the company of the unwise. People who were governed by reactivity, by vice, by a fundamental orientation toward drama and consumption rather than growth and virtue. And their teaching was that spending significant time with such people is not kindness. It is a drain on your capacity for your own flourishing, and it does nothing genuine for theirs. Marcus Aurelius was brutally honest in his private writings about certain people in his life who exhausted him. He did not pretend otherwise. What he practiced was a kind of loving distance, maintaining his own equanimity and goodwill while not being pulled into the undertow of their disorder. The question the Stoics ask about every relationship is, does this relationship call you toward your better self or away from it? Does it leave you with more capacity for the things you value, or less? This does not mean leaving every imperfect relationship. Almost no relationship is without friction or difficulty, and the Stoics knew this. But there is a difference between relationships that challenge you to grow and relationships that simply consume you. Between people who sometimes frustrate you and people who fundamentally do not wish you well.
The release here is sometimes a physical one, creating distance from people who drain you. But often, the more powerful release is an internal one. It is releasing the obligation to rescue people who are not asking to be rescued, releasing the guilt of not being able to fix what is not yours to fix, releasing the idea that your worth as a person is measured by how much you sacrifice for others. You cannot pour from an empty vessel.
And the Stoics understood that taking care of your own inner resources, your peace, your clarity, your energy, your virtue, is not selfishness. It is the prerequisite for being genuinely useful to anyone else. The fifth drain, the weight of unfinished things. There is a particular low-grade exhaustion that most people walk around with that they rarely name directly. It is the weight of everything undone. The difficult conversation you have been putting off, the decision you have been avoiding, the project you started and abandoned, the commitment you made and have not honored, the truth you know but have not spoken, the change you know you need to make but have not made. The Stoics called this a failure of action, and they considered it one of the most insidious forms of self-betrayal. Here is why it drains you so completely. Every unfinished thing requires a small but constant portion of your mental energy to maintain. Not to complete, just to carry. The brain does not forget open loops. It circles back to them again and again, generating a background hum of unease that never quite resolves. This is why people feel immediate relief when they finally have the hard conversation, finally make the decision, finally do the thing they have been dreading. It is not just relief that the thing is done, it is relief that the weight is gone. The mental real estate that the avoidance was consuming suddenly becomes available again. Procrastination is not laziness, it is almost always fear. Fear of failure, fear of conflict, fear of the unknown outcome. And the Stoics were very direct about what fear does to the quality of a life. Seneca wrote that we are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality. The hard conversation you are dreading, in your imagination, it is catastrophic. In reality, it almost never is. The decision you are avoiding, in your imagination, the wrong choice will ruin everything. In reality, most decisions are reversible, most mistakes are recoverable, and the cost of the decision is almost always less than the cost of the indefinite deferral. The Stoic practice here is simple. Identify your open loops. Write them down. Every commitment you have not honored, every conversation you are avoiding, every decision you have been postponing. Look at the list honestly, and then start, one at a time, closing them. Not all at once, that would be overwhelming, but one per day. One honest conversation. One decision made and committed to. One email sent. One truth spoken. One action taken. Each closed loop returns energy to you. Each one says, I am someone who faces what needs facing. I am someone who keeps my word to myself. And that self-respect, the knowledge that you are not hiding from your own life, is one of the most restorative feelings a human being can experience. Desire, want, the constant restless feeling that what you have is not enough, that where you are is not where you should be, that happiness is just ahead, in the promotion, the relationship, the house, the body, the achievement, and that as soon as you get there, then you will finally feel the peace you are looking for. This is what Seneca called the great lie that we tell ourselves continuously. He wrote that we defer everything. We are not living but intending to live. We are not grateful but planning to be grateful as soon as the circumstances align. And the circumstances never fully align, because the human mind is built for adaptation. We get the thing we wanted, we adjust to it within weeks or months, and then we want the next thing. The horizon keeps moving. The arrival never arrives. This is not a character flaw. It is human nature. And the Stoics were not naive about it, but they had a practice for working with it that is both ancient and radical. They called it amor fati, love of fate. The practice of not just accepting your current circumstances, but genuinely finding value in them. Not pretending everything is perfect, not toxic positivity, but the honest, deliberate search for what is good and valuable and sufficient in what you already have.
Marcus Aurelius practiced a version of this that he called negative visualization. He would deliberately contemplate losing the things he valued: his family, his health, his position, not to make himself miserable, but to remind himself of their value while they were present, to counteract the adaptation that makes us take things for granted. He wrote about looking at everything he had and imagining it taken away, and then feeling the genuine animal gratitude of realizing, I have this now, right now, and it is enough. The practice for you is this. At the end of every day, before you sleep, name 3 things you have that you would grieve the loss of. Not accomplishments, things, people, capacities, moments, and sit with the genuine awareness that they are here now, and that now is all there ever actually is. This does not cure ambition. The Stoics were not against ambition, but it relocates your well-being from the future, which does not exist yet, to the present, which is the only place you are ever actually living. The 7th drain, the noise in your own mind. We have talked about external drains, other people, circumstances, situations, but there is a drain that is purely internal, and in many ways it is the most exhausting of all. It is the noise of your own thinking, the repetitive thoughts that go nowhere, the mental loops of worry and regret, the inner critic that evaluates and judges and finds wanting, the constant narration of everything that is wrong, everything that might go wrong, everything that you should have done differently. Seneca wrote that the mind that is anxious about the future is miserable, but so is the mind that is resentful about the past, or the mind that cannot stop criticizing the present. The restless, unquieted mind is its own form of prison. The Stoic practice for addressing this is not suppression. You cannot force thoughts to stop. Anyone who has tried to not think about something knows that attempting to suppress a thought usually intensifies it.
The Stoic approach is observation. It is the practice of becoming the watcher of your thoughts rather than the victim of them. When a worried thought arises, you do not fight it. You observe it. You name it. There is a worry about the future. And then you ask, is there anything useful in this? Is there an action I can take? And if yes, you take it. If no, you gently, firmly return your attention to the present moment. This is what Marcus Aurelius was doing in his meditations. He was not writing to the world, he was writing to himself. A continuous practice of catching his own thinking, examining it against the standard of reason and virtue, and correcting what needed correcting. He wrote, "You have the power right now to stop the mental violence. Right now, in this moment. The thought that is tormenting you is not happening to you, it is happening in you. And in you is exactly where it can be addressed. The daily practice of sitting in silence for even 10 or 15 minutes, not to achieve anything, not to solve anything, but simply to observe the contents of your own mind without being driven by them, is one of the most powerful things you can do for your energy and your clarity. Over time, this practice does not silence the mind, but it creates a distance between you and your thoughts, a small but crucial gap in which you can choose your response. And that gap is freedom. That gap is the space where the Stoic life actually happens. The 8th drain, living without purpose. There is a final drain that ties everything else together, and it is the deepest one. It is living a life that does not feel like yours. Going through motions that were handed to you. The career someone else thought you should have, the lifestyle your culture prescribed, the goals that looked impressive from the outside, but feel empty on the inside. Viktor Frankl, writing from inside a Nazi concentration camp, said that a person can endure almost any difficulty if they have a reason for it. The Stoics 2,000 years earlier said essentially the same thing. They called it living according to your daimon, your inner purpose, your deepest nature, the unique expression of reason and virtue that is specifically yours.
A person with purpose has something that no external circumstance can fully take away. Marcus Aurelius had purpose: to govern justly, to protect the empire, to practice philosophy daily. Epictetus had purpose: to teach, to liberate minds, to model that freedom is an inner state regardless of outer conditions. Seneca had purpose: to write, to think, to make philosophy accessible to ordinary people. And each of them reported in their different ways that this sense of purpose was the organizing principle that made everything else bearable. It did not make difficulty disappear. It made difficulty meaningful. Without purpose, every difficulty is just suffering. With purpose, every difficulty becomes a test of character, an opportunity for growth, a moment of proving to yourself and the world who you actually are. The question the Stoics ask here is not, what do I want? That question leads to the endless cycle of desire we talked about earlier. The question is, what am I here to contribute? What does the world need that I am uniquely positioned to give? What kind of person do I want to be when this life is over? What do I want to have stood for? These are not comfortable questions.
They require an honesty about yourself that most people spend their lives avoiding. But they are the questions that lead to genuine energy, genuine aliveness, the kind of motivation that does not need external reward because it is self-generating. When you know why you are doing what you are doing, the drain of daily difficulty becomes manageable. When you do not know, even easy days feel heavy. The integration, what release actually looks like. We have covered a great deal of ground today. Let us bring it together. Releasing what drains you is not a one-time event. It is not a decision you make once and then you are free. It is a daily practice of returning to the boundary between what is yours to carry and what is not. Every morning, the Stoics recommended a brief practice of preparation. Marcus Aurelius did it. He would sit at the beginning of the day and remind himself of the core teachings, the dichotomy of control, the transience of everything, the importance of acting with virtue regardless of outcome. He would mentally prepare for the difficulties of the day, not with dread, but with readiness. You can do this too. It does not have to be long. 5 minutes of silence in which you ask, what am I carrying right now that is not mine? What am I worrying about that I cannot change? What old wound am I still feeding energy to? What relationship am I in that is asking more than it gives? What unfinished thing is humming in the background of my mind? Name it, examine it, and then make a conscious choice about it. Either take action, close the loop, have the conversation, make the decision, or genuinely release it. Return it to the category of things outside your control and redirect your attention to what is within it. Every evening, review, not harshly, but honestly. Where did you carry what needed to be put down? Where did you get pulled into someone else's drama? Where did you spend energy on things outside your control? And where? Where did you release? Where did you choose freedom over the familiar weight? Because releasing what drains you is ultimately a practice of choosing freedom every day, in small, consistent, cumulative ways. It is the choice to stop performing for people who are not watching, to stop carrying grudges that are only costing you, to stop worrying about futures that may never arrive, to stop postponing the truth of who you are. It is the choice to be fully, genuinely, undefendedly present in your own life. And that choice, made daily, remade every time you forget it, returned to every time you drift, is the whole of Stoic practice.
Epictetus was a slave. He had nothing. He could not choose where he went, what he did, or how he was treated, and yet he said, I am free. Because no one can make me believe anything I do not choose to believe. No one can make me want what I do not choose to want. No one can make me carry what I choose to put down. That freedom, inner, absolute, unchallengeable, is available to you right now. Not when your circumstances change, not when other people become different, not when the world cooperates with what you need from it. Right now. The chains that are holding you are not locked by anyone else. They are held by your own beliefs about what you must carry, what you must prove, what you must keep, what you cannot release. Put them down. Not all at once, not perfectly, but begin. Choose one thing, one drain, one weight, one story that has been costing you peace, and practice releasing it today. Just today. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." Seneca wrote, "Begin at once to live, and count each separate day as a separate life." Epictetus wrote, "Make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens." This is the teaching. This is the practice. This is the whole of it. You are not too tired to change. You are tired because you have not yet released what is draining you. And the moment you begin to release it, truly, consciously, with the full weight of Stoic understanding behind you, you will feel something that perhaps you have not felt in a very long time. You will feel light. If something in this video reached you, if you felt something shift, something loosen, something finally named, then do not leave without subscribing to this channel. Hit the subscribe button right now and turn on the bell notification. Every week on the Stoic Mindset, we go deeper into the ancient philosophy that is more urgently needed today than it has ever been. This is not content to consume and forget. This is a practice to live. The people who find this channel tend to stay because what we are building here is not an audience. It is a community of people committed to the examined life, to genuine freedom, to releasing everything that does not serve who they are becoming. Subscribe now. The next lesson is already waiting for you.